Come to Dominica, check this Andreoli hotel, man, and have a good time. A great time in sunshine, sunshine. Come to Dominica, check out Foodini and the crew, man, to eat some lobster. Some lobster, yay, sunshine, sunshine.
This is the second of our videos that we're doing at Andreoli Inn, and we're on Point Carrie, which is where Andreoli Inn is. Actually, Jenn can tell us a little bit more. It's 6 acres, is that right?
Well, we have almost 6 acres. Point Carrie lies above us, and it's a historical site of one of the first schools in the south end of Dominica, and it was the Point Carrie School. This would be more referred to as Wash Casse. Wash Casse starts at the top of our driveway, but it's broken rock. Broken rock.
It was so windy and rough on this particular day below Andreoli Inn that the mic got a bit overwhelmed at once, and I'm going to see how I can manage with overdubbing myself. And it really is amazing. I mean, it's volcanic magma that's poured into the sea. It is my understanding that Dominica is the youngest of the volcanic islands in the West Indies. And so we have these incredible formations right down to the ocean. And in the previous video, we were on one of the rivers, one of the hundreds of rivers in Dominica. And we went and got crayfish there. This time we're going after lobster. And it's in these crevices, in these sorts of rocks that the lobsters love to hide. So we've come today to show what the wonderful place where Andreoli Inn is. But we're going to go to another place a little further up north and go diving for lobster. I picked up my friends Scotty and Dreddy in Daly's on our way to the town of Boetica. The road is precipitous and very windy, so it takes about half an hour to go the 16 kilometers.
Go on. Recto.
We walked a further 20 minutes through the rainforest, down to the seaside. Glassy Point is another area where lava had flowed into the sea millions of years ago. There we met up with Scotty's son Dixon and his cousin Jethel. Our aim was to get a good number of rock lobsters that are quite abundant in the rocky outcroppings, but not very easy to catch. Dixon and Jethel were the first to take the plunge into the rather turbulent ocean. Next up came Scotty and Dreddy. I was left with Scotty's dogs, Whitey and Blackjaw, while the very intrepid divers made their way south along the coast. It was a particularly rough day, however, and the older men scrambled out after about an hour with several fish. We drove back south to Daly's, and Scotty quickly sold his catch. We then stopped by a local bar to play dominoes, a very popular pastime in Dominica. By about 4 in the afternoon, after some 6 hours, Dixon and Jethel emerged from the sea, with more lobsters than I'd hoped for. I bought some 20 lobsters from them and then headed back to Andreoli Inn, where I immediately tailed and cleaned them. We then boiled the tails for about 4 minutes, cooled them in an ice bath, and put them in the freezer for use in the lobster risotto in the next days.
We're back in Andreoli Inn kitchen, and Jen has got me very well trained. I'm wearing a pinny, which is, if anyone knows me in Italy, in my kitchen where I'm a bloody mess, it's quite unlike me, and everything's very nicely put out. This is the ingredients to the meal that I'm going to be making today. What happened last year is Jen couldn't be here for a couple of months, so I filled in for her in the kitchen. And one of my most popular dishes was a lobster risotto. Jen, on the other hand, true to her Italian origins, is going to be making a macaroni and cheese dish, which will be for the children. So we're going to have quite a group of people. Adults are going to be eating the risotto, and the children are going to be eating the mac and cheese. Now, Jen is from, her family originally came, grandparents on one side, Andreoli from Val d'Aosta, which is in northern Italy. What we're going to do is we're going to begin by making the stock, and for that I'm going to be starting with vegetables, a simple stock, onion, garlic cloves, carrots, and some celery from Jen's raised bed garden. And then we're going to toss in towards the end of the cooking the heads of the lobster.
Of the rock lobster.
Of the rock lobster. And here are the tails. This, you'll remember, obviously, is what we prepared the other day after I'd come back with the freshly caught lobster. We're going to start off by making the stock, as we said, and I'm just going to put the one onion and about 6 or 7 cloves of garlic and 5 or 6 smallish carrots and some sprigs of celery. So here we have our 3 or so liters of water with the stock vegetables, which will boil for about 2 hours. And half an hour before we're done, I'm going to throw in the lobster heads and finish the stock that way. As Jen has told me, it's very important that you don't put the lobster heads or tails, shells, whatever it may be, in for the whole time it's boiling, because it will become bitter. So really just the last 20 minutes or so, in go the lobster heads or tails.
We thought maybe the kids would enjoy macaroni and cheese a little bit more. It's commonly found in, bigger weekend meals, family celebrations will always be a baked macaroni and cheese pie. So we're about to grate the cheese. Nutmeg is my favorite ingredient.
And this is something you made in Toronto again.
You're very popular at the Universal Grill. Everybody liked their mac and cheese.
Sunday brunch sort of thing?
Sunday brunch, sometimes even offered at night, cold winter night, with a nice big glass of red wine. So we're grating mozzarella, and maybe it's a 2-year or 5-year English cheddar, just for a little bit of zip. Now I'm going to make the bechamel sauce, a quick version, for the cheese sauce for the macaroni. And in it, which much to the shock of most French chefs, I put green seasoning. Green seasoning is very common throughout the West Indies, and it's a mixture of scallion, chives, parsley, celery, and seasoning peppers, which are habaneros or Scotch bonnets with no heat, just the flavor of the pepper. Butter in the pan. So not really a bechamel sauce, but a green milk sauce. Nutmeg into the pot. Black pepper. and a good portion of salt. So now we're going to add a little bit of flour into the mix to thicken our sauce. It's 1/3 cup, but I'll probably just use half of it. I like to use the least amount of flour possible. You don't want to see butter floating around by itself. You see how it looks like there's no oil in the pan? So it's almost 1/3 cup. We're going to add a little bit of white wine because it's so much better. And then add our milk. 4 cups. And we're just going to let it simmer and come up to a boil so the flour thickens the pot. In true West Indian fashion, nothing like some hot sauce, even for the kids. I've buttered the glass dish, and instead of using white flour, we're going to use some locally made cassava flour to create a non-stick surface for our macaroni pie. Cassava is also known in Latin America as yuca with 1 C, not 2. And it is a tuberous root that is made into flour. Other people would know it as tapioca. And my neighbor, Bernette Baron, and her husband Gary make beautiful cassava flour, of which I am so grateful to receive. I'm going to undercook the pasta. It says 8 minutes, so I'm probably going to cook it 6.5 and drain it before I mix it in with the cheese sauce. Our milk sauce is thickened. The flour has done its work, and it is ready to have the cheese melted into. So I am going to reserve a little bit of the cheese to make sort of a streusel topping with butter and cassava flour to make the top crunchy. Here we are, finishing our white sauce on a low heat, just stirring it in until the cheese is melted, and we're good to go. I'm just rolling the butter, the cassava flour, and the cheese through my fingers to make what will eventually be a crunchy topping. Pasta, and I'm going to put it back into the big pot to make the mixing easier. And I'm going to put the super cheesy cheese sauce on top. I've added a little bit of Parmesan cheese into our topping mixture, and now we're just going to sprinkle it over the top. We are about to make a white sangria using the grapefruit wine that Chris has made, and we're going to add pineapple to it. So right now we're just preparing the pineapple, and we're going to cut it up into small pieces and rest it in the freezer until the moment we're ready to put the punch together. And in the punch goes rum, a little bit of simple syrup, triple sec, and your choice really. I like bubbles, so a little bit of Sprite or soda, and Angostura bitters is always good. First we're going to deconstruct the pineapple. Take the head off, and we save it for a plant. We rest it on the side. Take off the bottom.
You're just going to pop that in the ground, is what you mean.
Let it rot out for a few days, because the stem will grow out from the center core. So if you leave it to sit in compost for a while, the flesh will rot out, and then it'll be ready to plant. So just small little ice cubes. And there we have it. And now we'll just rest it in the freezer. Simple syrup is equal parts sugar and water boiled into a syrup. Just takes a few moments. Here we've put the pineapple skin so that it's pineapple flavored simple syrup. Just an extra bang for the buck. Normally I'd leave it on high, but because this is such a small portion and we want it as strong as we can with the pineapple flavor, I'll just turn it down to a simmer. It'll take a little bit longer, but we'll get the most out of the pineapple skin. We are going to put together our grapefruit wine white sangria. I'm using 2 separate jugs, one larger, one smaller. And I'm reserving a little bit of the pineapple for a kid.
And these are your
Frozen pineapple pieces. And this is our pineapple flavored simple syrup that we boiled the skin in. So we're just going to put a little drop for now, and then we'll test it when we're done. I just think I want to make sure that we make enough. So I'm going to put 3/4 of the bottle of grapefruit wine in the large, and I'll put 1/4 in it. Then 1.5 ounces of triple sec. And 3/4 of an ounce of triple sec in the smaller jug. In true West Indian fashion, there we go. I'll put 4 ounces of rum in this one. And I'll just put 1.5 in the smaller one. A little bit of Angostura bitters, just for pizzazz. And a little bit of Sprite and soda. Maybe more, it's going to be so strong. And a little bit of club soda. I've taken a small taste and I've decided it needs a little bit sweetening up. So I'm just going to put about 1 ounce of sugar syrup in here and about 1/2 ounce in here. So here. Shall we cheers for the family?
Wow, that's tasty.
Really good, isn't it?
Stock is done, and somehow I've lost my penny. Things are getting messier. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of the bits of lobster. And then I'm going to strain out the rest, but I'm going to squeeze it into the strainer so that we get some more of that lovely vegetable goodness.
Oh, you're going to push the
I'm going
carrot.
to push it through the strainer. Squish all these vegetables into the strainer. Oops. This is where the messy part comes in, and this is where I should be wearing my
Come and smell it, Wayne.
Come and have a sniff of this, because it's lots lobstery and vegetables.
It smells great.
Yes, it does. Let me just keep
Smells
squishing
better than
it.
anything I ever had before.
Just wait till you taste it.
Anything?
Can't wait.
So there's quite a lot of goodness
there's
in
the
them.
good stuff, and it gives it nice color too.
It does. So Jen's slicing up the lobster. We're going to have probably 3/4 of it sliced up very finely to mix in with the risotto, and then a few tails left over, which will, how would you put it?
Garnish the plates. Garnish the
Garnish the
risotto with.
Here comes the mac and cheese. Whoa, 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 look at that. Beautiful.
Get the sound. Snap, crackle, and pop.
Fried a medium onion, sliced it up, chopped it up, fried it. Now I'm adding in, this is 750 grams of arborio rice, which should be enough for 6-7 people. And I'm just going to get that thoroughly mixed up with the olive oil, which the onion was fried up in. And now I'm going to add in about 150 mils of wine. And that will immediately be soaked up by the rice quite quickly. And then basically for the next 15 minutes, maybe a bit less, I'm going to be adding this lovely vegetable and lobster stock we've done here.
Ladle by ladle.
Ladle by ladle. The rice slowly absorbs it. Once it's absorbed, I add another ladle. We don't want it to stick to the bottom, so it really has to be constantly stirred. And so, 10-15 minutes, we're done. You can see that there's lots of goodness down there. I gotta keep bringing it up. Yeah. Here we go. Add 2 ladles at a time. And I keep stirring. Okay, while I'm stirring the risotto, Jen's just heating up the pieces, small pieces of lobster, which we're going to add directly to the risotto. Okay, now I'm going to put in the butter and the parmesan. 30-40 grams of butter and about 80 or 90 of parmesan.
And we know some people think it's horrible to add Parmesan cheese in with seafood, but
No.
I
This is
think
fine.
it's lovely.
There it goes. I'm happy to serve my risotto with Parmesan cheese, the lobster risotto that is. Always Parmesan in a
Now are
risotto.
you going to put the lobster
And
in?
I'm putting these small pieces of lobster in.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that. Turning off the fire and folding in the lobster. Beautiful.
What a smell.
And soon you will see the plates on the table and the garnish of the lobster tails.
So I'm just finishing plating up with this, the garnish of the sliced up lobster tail. That sure looks nice. And
Ta-da.
mac and cheese. Cheese.
Now we move into the yard.
We're going to be eating outside
Now,
of Andreoli.
like it if you could all
Plates to the table.
What's up? Saimi!
some food in the fresh breeze. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, man.
White sangria made with grapefruit wine. Ladies! What is it?
That lobster and rice, that was so
Je veux pas te déranger plus longtemps.
Ok, pas de soucis, on va plus tard.
Ouais.